That's right. Now let's move on to some more top stories of the hour. Now, Russia has laid out tough demands at renewed peace talks with Ukraine in Istanbul on Monday, insisting that Kyiv cede more territory and scale back its military in exchange for ending the war. The talks lasted barely about an hour, which is the second round since 2022. But they did lead to humanitarian steps like prisoners of war exchanges and repatriating the dead. Now, Ukraine, which called Russia's terms unacceptable, has proposed another round of talks later this month. In fact, President Erdogan called this session a great meeting and hoped to host a summit with Putin, Zelensky and Trump in Turkey. But with Russia demanding NATO neutrality and legal recognition of annexed lands, a ceasefire remains elusive.
Spoke to Ruslan
In fact, we also spoke to Ruslan Botnik.
Pointing out, we also spoke to Ruslan Botnik, Director, Ukrainian Institute of Politics, on the Russia-Ukraine peace talks. Let's listen into what he had to say.
Both the sides are trying to play this game about ceasefire. Russia is stating demands for ceasefire because Russia is not willing to get into the trap of Minsk agreement like it was before 2014, 2022. Ukraine is stated on unconditional ceasefire because Ukraine is willing to just annihilate Russian previous preliminary demands. And Russia also insisting on some humanitarian topics in which Russia is in more stronger position than Ukraine.
US is pushing dozens of countries to submit their best trade offers by Wednesday as it races towards a July 8 deadline to finalize a new deal. A draft letter from the US Trade Representative reveals that Washington wants details on tariffs, digital trade and economic security promises or risk a return of sweeping Liberation Day tariffs. So far, only one limited pact with Britain has materialized. This urgency comes amid a court challenge to the legality of Trump's wide-ranging tariff strategy. The White House says it's eyeing reciprocal tariff deals and fast.
That's right. Now, moving on, as I was mentioning earlier, China has hit back at the US, claiming that it violated a Geneva trade deal, accusing Washington of breaching the agreement instead. Now, this follows Trump's post accusing Beijing of totally violating the deal. The US has heightened tech export rules and revoked Chinese student visas, moves that China says are seriously undermining the fragile truce.
Meanwhile, the European Union has agreed to curb Chinese medical device manufacturer access to public procurement contracts, and that is worth over 5 million euros. The move is first action taken under the EU's International Procurement Instrument, a 2022 law that is promoting reciprocity in public procurement markets. An EU investigation found that Beijing discriminated against foreign firms.
That's right. Moving on, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is very optimistic about prospects for a trade deal between U.S. and India. He adds that he thinks trade negotiations have found a place that really works for both of the countries. Now, he said a deal is not too distant in the future during a U.S.-India Strategic Partnership Forum. He also said that India may get a more favorable term from being one of the first pacts agreed. Now, let's listen into what he had to say.
I think to be in a very, very good place, and you should expect a deal between the United States and India in the not too distant future, because I think we found a place that really works for both countries.
So you're pretty optimistic, it sounds like.
I would say very optimistic,
Very optimistic
would be sort of the way it comes to mind.
All right, after you heard this, there is also UK Trade Minister Jonathan Reynolds will meet US Trade Representative Greer in Paris today, and that will be there for a discussion, a tariff cutting deal now at risk, which is due to fresh US steel levies. The agreement, still not formal, faces delays as just Trump plans to hike steel tariffs from 25% to 50% this week. UK Steel says British producers could be hit. And Renault is also meeting EU and Indian officials in a push to ease red tape and finalize a free trade agreement with India. He called for evolving relationship with the G7 allies to protect exporters and unlock smoother trade.
That's right. Now moving on to another update from the US. Now Howard is urging a federal court to unfreeze $2.5 billion in US research funding that has been blocked by the Trump administration. The university says the freeze is affecting cancer, public health and national security projects and violates free speech rights. Now, since mid-April, Howard has received nearly 1,000 freeze orders after it refused White House demands. Now a court hearing is set for July 21st.
Alright, moving on, tech giant Microsoft is also cutting 100 more jobs just weeks after its largest layoff in years. This shows how the industry is looking to cut costs while investing billions in artificial intelligence or AI. According to reports, more than 300 employees were let go in the latest round.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.